a sprawling metropolis built on fake glamour and terrible decisions. This is the game that redefined the scale of modern open-world gaming. And we've all played Grand Theft Auto before, but we rarely stop to ask, why does this specific brand of insanity resonate? While Fortnite conquered the youth, Grand Theft Auto conquered the culture. It didn't just give us a digital playground, it gave us Los Santos, a satirical reflection of Los Angeles, and pulls damaged people deeper into the fantasy itself. That's the game's first impression, and it hits you like a sledgehammer. It throws the madness right in your face, forcing you to get lost in the noise before you can notice the rot underneath. But beyond the crime and the dark humor, this is a story about human desires, where everybody in this world is chasing a fantasy, a bigger house, a cleaner identity, or some idealized version of themselves that finally leaves their old life in the rearview mirror. This narrative architecture pulls from a history of warnings that predate video games by centuries. We see the ghost of King Midas standing in a hillside mansion, realizing that his golden world is cold and impossible to eat. We see the shadow of Babylon in the city's reckless pride, in the tragedy of El Dorado, in the way characters pursue a prize that keeps receding as they approach it. Rockstar takes these foundational American anxieties and updates them for a world of social media feeds and celebrity obsession. In Los Santos, the false prophets aren't just in temples. They're on billboards, smartphones, and late-night talk shows, all selling a lifestyle that seems to bring no one any peace. Michael is the man who won the race and realized the finish line was a cemetery for his ambition. Franklin is the one still convinced the race is worth running if he can just find a better pair of shoes. Trevor is the person who stopped running and decided to set the track on fire. When you force these three perspectives together, is no longer a simple crime sandbox. It's a thematic autopsy, a story about what happens when the fantasy of self-invention meets the hard reality of human emptiness, and the desperate, violent ways we try to close the gap between the two. The genius of Los Santos lies in its ability to sell you the shimmer before it shows you the dirt. It mimics the vivid language of a postcard, the perfect orange of a Vinewood sunset, the aggressive paint of a luxury car, the manicured perfection of a golf course. Rockstar builds this city with the same meticulous eye for desire. They give you the look, the feel, and the vibe of making it before you ever hear a character speak. But once the car stops moving and you actually listen to the people on the sidewalk, the illusion starts to fracture. You realize the city looks like a high-end resort, but sounds like a collective nervous breakdown happening in real time. This places the game in a long, dark tradition of bright places that use sunshine as a spotlight for the decay. You can feel the DNA of old Hollywood noir here, where the light doesn't cleanse anything. It just makes the filth easier to see. It is the ideological successor to Chinatown and Mulholland Drive. Films that understood that California is a land of two realities: the fabricated paradise we're told, and the hustle we're forced to endure. Los Santos resonates because it refuses to let those two realities harmonize. It forces them to sit side by side, creating a constant, low-frequency hum of anxiety that persists even during the quietest moments of the game. We witness the entire city turn into a series of calculated performances. People aren't just living, they're branding themselves for an audience that doesn't exist. reinvention is marketed as the ultimate salvation, a chance to shed your skin and become someone more profitable. The witch in this modern fairy tale isn't hiding in the woods. She's running a tech startup or hosting a podcast about how to optimize your life. This is the sharpest edge of the game's satire. It mocks a society where insecurity is the primary fuel for the economy, a place where you are encouraged to feel broken so that someone can sell you a lifestyle that promises to fix you. There is a vertical, almost Dante-like structure to the city's geography. Los Santos is purgatory rewritten for the aspirational class. The hills allow the rich to literally look down on the rest of the city, while the billboards at the bottom serve as a constant reminder of what you haven't achieved yet. It is an architecture of envy, designed to keep everyone in a state of perpetual comparison. Whether it's the Kardashian-style influencer culture or the tabloid obsession with celebrity downfall, the city runs on the fuel of watching others and wishing you were them, or at least wishing you were watching them fail. In the end, the city is the only character that truly matters. It exposes a version of the modern world that is glamorous, ridiculous, and emotionally vacant all at once. It's a landscape where the people in charge, the billionaire predators, the crooked feds, and the media hacks all posture as pillars of society while acting out of pure, unadulterated self-interest. That is why Trevor's part in this game is so vital. In a city powered by the polite lie of performance, Trevor is the only one who refuses to play along. Michael, Franklin, and Trevor are more than just protagonists. They are the three internal voices of a society in conflict. Together, they give the manic chaos of Los Santos a human face. Each man carries a different relationship to the American dream the city keeps shouting about. One has already won the dream and found it to be a hollow shell. The other is still climbing the ladder, hoping the view from the top is worth the dirt. The last one represents the buried, primal urge the entire system was built to suppress. Michael is the fallen king of the hill. On paper, he is the success story that every billboard in Los Santos advertises. He has the hillside mansion, the pool, the family, and the security. And yet, he is the most miserable man in the room. He moves through his own house like a ghost haunting his own life. A man who reached the end of the rainbow and found a pile of bills and a family that views him as a bank account. It's the Midas myth in a tracksuit. Michael touched the world and turned it into the golden life he wanted, only to realize that gold doesn't actually sustain a human soul. What makes Michael such a fascinating disaster is his dedication to the theater of his own misery. He understands that in Los Santos, staying in character is the only way to survive. He clings to the mansion and the suit, not because they make him happy, but because they provide a script for his existence. He knows the fairy tale is a fraud, but he also knows the city rewards the people who can keep the set standing. He isn't protecting a family, he's protecting a performance. He'd rather be a miserable man in a mansion than a real man with nothing, because at least the mansion gives his suffering an audience. There are real and fictional ghosts lurking in Michael's archetype. We see the isolation of a figure like Howard Hughes, a man who built a world he eventually became too afraid to inhabit. We see the suburban anxiety of Tony Soprano, another successful man who can't figure out why he's left feeling like he's drowning. Michael belongs to this specific American lineage of the king of nothing. He is a man whose empire is occupied by a family that barely tolerates him and a past that is slowly catching up with him. Even his therapy sessions serve the performance. He isn't there to change. He's there to buy the vocabulary of growth, so he can justify staying exactly the same. This is why the therapy scenes are so critical to the game's bite. Michael uses self-awareness the same way a corporation uses branding, as a form of damage control. He wants the feeling of moral effort without the actual cost of personal change. He role-plays the troubled man seeking help because it allows him to protect his own interests while pretending he's working on himself. He is the ultimate expression of the city's hypocrisy, a man who knows the game is fake, but keeps playing because the role still pays better than the truth. Franklin stands at the opposite end of the spectrum, looking back with the hunger that Michael has long since lost. He is the embodiment of the old Horatio Alger promise, the idea that if you're smart enough and driven enough, you can hustle your way out of the circumstances you were born into. But Franklin wants more than just survival. He wants dignity and distance from the limits that the world has placed on him. He wants to believe that adulthood doesn't have to be a trap. He's the clearest expression of the dream in the entire city. The one character who still believes the prize might be real. But the game never lets that climb stay clean. Franklin's journey feels like the American dream after the 2008 crash. A world where the ladder is still there, but every rung belongs to someone who wants to exploit you. He escapes the small-time predators of the street, only to find himself working for high-level sociopaths in the hills. It's a tragic arc for a man who bought into the city's bullshit. He gets the house and the view, but he realizes that moving up doesn't change who you are. It just changes the quality of the people you have to lie to. The ladder behaves more like a treadmill, keeping him moving while he stays in the same emotional place. He's a reflection of generations of people who were fed the same promise that the next neighborhood, the next job, or the next level of status will finally make them feel complete. Los Santos whispers this to him because it's the fuel that keeps the city running. Franklin eventually reaches a high enough altitude to see the harder truth, that sometimes the way out is just a different kind of in. Trevor is the most honest answer of the three because he's the only one who has stopped lying. He's the Ed of the American frontier, the raw, unrefined appetite that the nation condemns in public while rewarding in secret. Trevor acts like a modern trickster. Los Santos' very own Loki, a force of chaos dropped into a world of gated communities and corporate spin. He doesn't expose the city's hypocrisy with grand speeches. He exposes it by refusing to participate in the polite fiction of civilization. He's the nightmare that everyone else is trying to censor from their social media feeds. Historically, he represents the violent, messy expansionism that built the country, then was pushed outside the picket fence so that decent people wouldn't have to see it anymore. He is what happens when freedom loses its mannerisms and turns into pure, unadulterated instinct. There is a touch of Iggy Pop's self-destructive stage energy in him, as well as a touch of the spiritual ruin found in Cormac McCarthy's novels. Trevor is the fault line of civilization split wide open, revealing the brutality that has always been lurking beneath the surface of the city on a hill. When you step back, these three men form the broken trinity of the American experience. Michael is success without the joy. Franklin is ambition without the peace. Trevor is freedom without the conscience. One shows us what happens when the dream goes stale. The other shows us what it looks like when it's still calling. The last one shows us the violence that was always there. Together, they turn this wacky crime caper plot into an argument about a culture that has lost its way, told through three damaged men who are all infected with the same spiritual sickness. They are the saints of San Andreas and the embodiment of the city's namesake. We should no longer dismiss Grand Theft Auto as empty sarcasm, from the prestigious movie lots to the relentless radio ads. As singular central idea is reinforced. Los Santos is a city where identity is the primary commodity. People invest in a curated public version of themselves to perform for an audience, an ultimate sale of the self in the paradise that has become entirely fabricated, molded by modern urban culture, in the desperate need to be seen. In case you didn't notice, in between the carjackings and bank heists, the radio acts as the city's collective subconscious. It is a 24-hour chorus of a society trying to distract itself from its own emptiness. The ads promise confidence and beauty through consumption, while the hosts rant like prophets of the absurd. The music operates the same way. From the aggressive swagger of West Coast rap to the hollow nostalgia of soft rock, it all adds up to a sonic map of a city obsessed with its own image. It's the sound of a paradise that is beautiful, disposable, and ultimately vapid, a reflection of life in Miami, Los Angeles, and New York. American cities consumed by their own self-image. Then there's the celebrity culture of Los Santos. It's a machine, or matrix rather, that turns humiliation into relevance. Fame isn't about achievement, it's about visibility. This puts the game in the same orbit as our tabloid press and the influencer economy, where the goal is to turn yourself into content so that you can exist in the eyes of others. It's funny, but it's also deeply bleak. In a place like this, being seen has become a substitute for being known. Attention has replaced connection as the city's primary currency, and the result is a population that is perpetually watched, but never truly understood. Then there's the mockery of the city's tech industry, a satire that has grown sharper since the game's release. Life Invader perfectly captures how the language of community and sharing is used to mask corporate greed and surveillance. The pitch is always warm and frictionless. The future is here to make your life easier, but beneath the user-friendly interface sits the same old hunger for profit and influence. Rockstar knew that the app era was just cleaner packaging for the same old hustle. Even the institutions of Los Santos behave like actors protecting a brand. The government agencies, the billionaires, and the media figures all posture as if they serve some higher purpose while their actions are driven by pure self-interest. This is why Michael's line about hypocrisy still stings. In this city, hypocrisy isn't a side effect, it's the social glue. It's the virtue that allows a spiritually empty culture to keep calling itself civilized. The city isn't sneering at humanity. It's recognizing how often we use branding and spin to justify our own survival. But Los Santos, in hindsight, feels honest despite the cynicism. Because beneath the parody, the game understands a very fundamental human ache, the need for meaning. Most satires have a short shelf life, but Grand Theft Auto stays relevant because it isn't just mocking people. It understands why they become this way. It sees the vanity, the greed, and the pettiness, but it also recognizes the hunger for proof that you count for something. Everyone believes they aren't the only ones stuck outside the good life, and that recognition gives the game a strange, emotional intelligence that can survive the violence and vulgar jokes. Because this satire knows that the desire to be somebody is the most powerful force in the American psyche. So my final thoughts are this. Grand Theft Auto is bigger than the crime story it presents. The chaos is just the pitch. The story is actually about America as a landscape of toxic desires. Los Santos resonates because it's beautiful enough to seduce you, ridiculous enough to entertain you, and truthful enough to sting. It's the dream, the lie, and the punchline all happening at the same time. It's a world that keeps telling the idea of freedom, while slowly draining the meaning out of the people who are desperate enough to chase it. Michael, Franklin, and Trevor each expose a different fracture in that dream. Together, they turn Los Santos into a modern myth we love today, translating old warnings about pride and greed into a language of luxury real estate, therapy talk, and high-speed chases. That is why Ending C, the third way, is the only ending that truly fits the story. It doesn't offer redemption, and it doesn't make these men noble. It just forces them to accept the reality of who they are in the city they inhabit. They don't overcome their sickness, they just learn to live with it. And there's a sense of narrative symmetry with this ending, suggesting it's a direct consequence of where they started. The mansion, the heists, and their need for status will never fulfill them. Like Gatsby, standing in the middle of his own party and feeling completely alone, these men are forced to acknowledge the fantasy will never live up to their reality. Throughout my entire playthrough, Michael's final dig at Devon stands as the most honest critique of the game. He realizes that hypocrisy is the glue holding their little fake paradise together. And by choosing to keep going, the trio will never climb out of vanity's purgatory. But they can stop pretending there's a ladder leading them to heaven. If you enjoyed this deep dive video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The holy trinity for any content creator. Your support really helps the channel grow and gives my content a chance to break through the algorithm. Until next time.